What if I told you that Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist who revolutionized our understanding of the human psyche, identified specific psychological patterns in women that most men completely miss? What if these patterns, when understood correctly, could transform your relationships forever? Today, we're diving deep into Jung's most controversial insights about feminine psychology. Insights that have been hidden in academic circles for decades. But before we begin, let me be crystal clear. This isn't about manipulation or exploitation. This is about understanding the profound psychological differences between masculine and feminine energy, and how recognizing these patterns can create deeper, more authentic connections. If you're ready to unlock the secrets of Jungian psychology and transform your understanding of relationships, smash that like button right now and subscribe for more life-changing content. Trust me, what you're about to learn will completely shift your perspective on love and attraction. Jung spent over 40 years studying the human psyche, and what he discovered about the feminine unconscious will shock you. He identified 9 distinct psychological vulnerabilities that exist in the feminine psyche, not as flaws to be exploited, but as doorways to deeper understanding and connection. These aren't weaknesses in the traditional sense. They're psychological patterns that, when understood with respect and wisdom, can help you build relationships based on genuine understanding rather than surface-level attraction. The first thing you need to understand is Jung's concept of the anima and animus. Every man carries within him an unconscious feminine side called the anima, while every woman carries an unconscious masculine side called the animus. Most relationship problems stem from people not understanding these inner dynamics. When you understand how the feminine psyche operates through Jung's lens, you're not learning to manipulate. You're learning to harmonize with natural psychological rhythms. Jung believed that true intimacy could only occur when both partners understood and respected these deeper psychological patterns. The 9 patterns we're about to explore aren't tools for control. They're keys to authentic connection. They reveal how the feminine mind processes emotion, attachment, security, and love in ways that differ fundamentally from masculine psychology. Now, before we dive into these 9 patterns, I need you to pause the video and ask yourself, how many relationships have failed because you simply didn't understand what was really going on beneath the surface? Keep watching, because what Jung discovered will answer that question in ways you never imagined. The first pattern Jung identified is what he called emotional validation seeking. This isn't about women being needy or emotional. It's about understanding that the feminine psyche processes reality through emotional resonance first, logical analysis second. For women, feeling heard and emotionally validated isn't just nice to have. It's a fundamental psychological need that connects to their sense of safety and belonging in the world. Jung observed that women have a natural tendency to externalize their internal emotional states through communication. This means that when a woman shares her feelings, she's not necessarily looking for solutions. She's looking for emotional mirroring and validation. Most men miss this completely because the masculine psyche tends to process problems through solution seeking rather than emotional exploration. Understanding this pattern doesn't mean you become a passive listener. It means you learn to provide emotional resonance before jumping to logical solutions. When you master this, you'll notice how quickly trust and intimacy develop in your relationships. Jung called this holding space for the feminine emotional process, and it's one of the most powerful relationship skills you can develop. The second pattern involves what Jung termed security-seeking behavior. Women have an evolutionary and psychological predisposition towards seeking security, not just financial security, but emotional, psychological, and relational security. This manifests in countless ways. The need for consistent communication, the desire for future planning, the importance of feeling prioritized in your life. Many men interpret security-seeking behavior as clingy or controlling, but Jung understood it differently. He saw it as the feminine psyche's natural way of creating the emotional safety necessary for vulnerability and intimacy. When a woman feels secure, she naturally becomes more open, more passionate, and more willing to invest deeply in the relationship. The key insight here is that security isn't something you provide once. It's something you demonstrate consistently through your actions, your reliability, and your emotional presence. Jung emphasized that masculine energy naturally provides this security through consistent behavior rather than constant verbal reassurance. The third pattern Jung identified is idealization and projection. Women have a natural tendency to project their ideal image of love and partnership onto the men they're attracted to. This isn't conscious manipulation. It's how the feminine psyche processes attraction and romantic possibility. Jung called this the animus projection, where women unconsciously project their inner masculine ideal onto external partners. This pattern explains why women often fall in love with potential rather than reality. They see not just who you are, but who you could become. While this can create unrealistic expectations, it also reveals something beautiful about feminine psychology, the natural ability to see and nurture potential in others. Understanding this pattern helps you navigate the gap between her idealized vision and your actual self. Instead of feeling pressured to live up to impossible standards, you can learn to communicate authentically about your growth journey while honoring her natural tendency to see your highest potential. The fourth pattern involves what Jung called emotional cyclical nature. Women's emotional and psychological states naturally fluctuate in cyclical patterns, not just monthly hormonal cycles, but deeper psychological rhythms that Jung connected to the feminine connection with natural cycles and intuitive processes. Hold on, if you're thinking this sounds like outdated stereotypes, stay with me. Jung's insights go much deeper than surface-level generalizations. What he discovered about cyclical feminine psychology will revolutionize how you approach relationship dynamics. Keep watching to understand the profound implications. Most men expect emotional consistency because that's how masculine psychology tends to operate. But feminine psychology is naturally more fluid, more responsive to environmental and internal changes. Jung observed that women who are most connected to their feminine essence experience natural ebbs and flows in their emotional availability, their need for connection versus solitude, and their overall psychological state. The mistake most men make is trying to fix or control these natural cycles instead of learning to flow with them. Jung taught that when you understand and respect these cyclical patterns, you actually create space for deeper intimacy during the phases when she's most emotionally available. This doesn't mean accepting dramatic mood swings or emotional volatility. It means recognizing that feminine energy naturally operates in waves rather than straight lines, and learning to be a stable, consistent presence that allows these natural rhythms to unfold without resistance or judgment. The fifth pattern Jung identified is relational identity formation. For many women, their sense of self is partially formed and expressed through their relationships. This isn't codependency. It's a fundamental difference in how feminine versus masculine psychology constructs identity. Men tend to form identity through achievement and individual accomplishment, while women often form identity through relational connection and community. This pattern explains why women often want to integrate you into their social circles, why they value meeting your friends and family, and why they seek to create shared experiences and memories. Their sense of relationship satisfaction is deeply connected to feeling that they're building something meaningful together, not just enjoying individual moments. Understanding this pattern helps you recognize why women value relationship milestones, why they want to talk about the future, and why they often seek reassurance about where the relationship is heading. It's not about controlling your future. It's about forming their own identity within the context of what you're building together. The sixth pattern involves emotional contagion and empathy. Jung observed that women have a natural tendency toward higher empathetic sensitivity, which means they unconsciously absorb and mirror the emotional states of people around them. This is both a gift and a vulnerability. When you're stressed, anxious, or emotionally unavailable, women in your life will often unconsciously absorb those states. Conversely, when you're grounded, confident, and emotionally stable, they naturally reflect those qualities back. Jung called this emotional resonance, and it's one of the most powerful dynamics in male-female relationships. This pattern explains why your emotional state has such a profound impact on relationship dynamics. It's not that women are overly sensitive, it's that they're naturally more attuned to emotional frequencies. When you master your own emotional state, you create an environment where feminine energy can flourish. Here's where this gets really interesting. Jung discovered that this emotional resonance works both ways. Women don't just absorb masculine emotional states, they also have the power to elevate or diminish masculine energy through their own emotional expression. Stay tuned to understand how this dynamic can transform your relationships. The seventh pattern Jung identified is intuitive processing versus logical processing. Women naturally rely more heavily on intuitive, holistic thinking patterns, while men tend to rely more on linear, logical analysis. This isn't about intelligence, it's about different ways of processing information and making decisions. Jung observed that women often know things about people and situations without being able to explain exactly how they know. They pick up on subtle cues, energy shifts, and unspoken dynamics that escape logical analysis. This intuitive processing can seem mysterious or irrational to men who are accustomed to step-by-step reasoning. The key insight is learning to respect and value feminine intuition rather than dismissing it as illogical. Often what seems like irrational female behavior is actually intuitive wisdom, picking up on something that logical analysis missed. Jung taught that the most successful relationships combine masculine logical analysis with feminine intuitive wisdom. This pattern also explains why women often want to talk through problems rather than immediately jump to solutions. The talking process isn't just communication, it's how feminine psychology processes complex information and arrives at intuitive understanding. The eighth pattern involves beauty and aesthetic sensitivity. Jung recognized that women have a natural, deep connection to beauty, harmony, and aesthetic expression. This isn't superficial vanity, it's a fundamental aspect of how feminine psychology interacts with the world. Women are naturally more sensitive to environmental aesthetics, to visual harmony, to the emotional impact of beautiful spaces and experiences. This sensitivity extends to how they present themselves, how they want to be seen and appreciated, and how they create beauty in their relationships and environments. Understanding this pattern helps you recognize why details matter to women in ways they might not matter to you. The flowers, the thoughtful gestures, the attention to creating beautiful shared experiences, these aren't just nice touches. They're ways of speaking directly to feminine psychology and showing that you understand and value this aspect of who she is. Jung believed that when men learn to appreciate and contribute to beauty in relationships, they create an environment where feminine energy naturally flourishes. This doesn't mean you need to become interested in fashion or interior design. It means recognizing that aesthetic sensitivity is a valuable aspect of feminine psychology that deserves respect and appreciation. Now we're getting to the most powerful pattern Jung identified, and this one will completely change how you think about attraction and desire. If you've ever wondered why women seem to lose interest even when everything seems to be going well, this next insight will blow your mind. The ninth and most crucial pattern Jung identified is the need for psychological challenge and growth. This is where most men get relationships completely wrong. They think that once they've won a woman's heart, their job is to make everything easy, comfortable, and predictable. But Jung discovered that feminine psychology actually thrives on appropriate challenge, growth, and psychological stimulation. Women are attracted to men who inspire them to become better versions of themselves. This doesn't mean being difficult or creating drama. It means being someone who naturally calls forth her highest potential through your own commitment to growth and excellence. Jung called this animus activation, when a man's presence activates a woman's inner drive toward growth and self-actualization. This pattern explains why women often lose attraction to men who become too accommodating, too predictable, or too focused on making her comfortable at the expense of maintaining their own growth and purpose. Feminine psychology is designed to be attracted to masculine energy that's moving somewhere, building something, becoming something greater. The mistake most men make is thinking that love means making everything easy for her. But Jung understood that real love involves inspiring each other toward growth, and feminine psychology is naturally attracted to masculine energy that provides this inspiration through example rather than pressure. This doesn't mean being emotionally unavailable or playing games. It means maintaining your own path of development, your own goals and ambitions, your own commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. When you do this, you naturally become more attractive because you're embodying the kind of masculine energy that feminine psychology is designed to complement and be inspired by. Jung observed that in the healthiest relationships, both partners inspire each other's growth. The masculine through providing direction and challenge, the feminine through providing support and intuitive wisdom. When this dynamic is balanced, both people become more than they could be individually. Now, let's talk about how to apply these insights ethically and effectively. Jung's work wasn't about manipulation, it was about understanding. When you truly understand these 9 psychological patterns, you naturally become more attractive because you're responding to genuine human needs rather than trying to create artificial attraction through tricks or techniques. The first application principle is emotional leadership. Instead of being reactive to her emotional states, you learn to be a stable, grounding presence that allows her natural emotional rhythms to unfold without trying to control or fix them. This doesn't mean being emotionally distant. It means being emotionally centered. Emotional leadership means you maintain your own emotional equilibrium while being present and supportive of her emotional process. When she's going through cyclical changes, when she needs validation, when she's processing things intuitively, you remain grounded while being fully present and supportive. The second application principle is consistent security demonstration. Instead of just telling her you care, you demonstrate care through reliable actions, consistent communication, and predictable positive behavior. Security isn't created through grand gestures, it's built through daily consistency in small things. This means following through on commitments, being where you say you'll be when you say you'll be there, and maintaining emotional availability, even when life gets stressful. Jung emphasized that feminine psychology is deeply attuned to consistency patterns, and security is built through repeated demonstrations of reliability. The third application principle is respectful challenge. Instead of trying to make everything easy for her, you maintain your own growth trajectory and invite her to grow alongside you. This means having your own goals, your own interests, your own commitment to becoming better. Here's the paradox that Jung discovered. The more you focus on your own growth and development, the more attractive you become to feminine psychology. But there's a specific way to do this that builds intimacy rather than creating distance. Keep watching to learn the exact approach. Respectful challenge means you don't lower your standards or abandon your goals to accommodate relationship. Comfort. Instead, you invite her to be part of your growth journey while supporting her own path of development. Jung called this parallel individuation, where both partners are becoming more themselves while becoming closer to each other. The fourth application principle is aesthetic appreciation. You learn to notice and appreciate the beauty she creates and the aesthetic sensitivity she brings to your shared life. This means paying attention to the details that matter to her, acknowledging the effort she puts into creating beautiful experiences, and contributing to the aesthetic dimension of your relationship. This doesn't mean you need to develop the same aesthetic interests she has. It means recognizing that her sensitivity to beauty is a gift that adds richness to your shared experience. When you appreciate this aspect of feminine psychology, you create space for it to flourish. The fifth application principle is intuitive respect. Instead of dismissing her intuitive insights as illogical, you learn to value the information that comes through feminine intuitive processing. This means asking for her perspective on people and situations, trusting her gut feelings about social dynamics, and recognizing that intuitive wisdom often sees things that logical analysis misses. Jung observed that the most successful men learned to combine their own logical analysis with feminine intuitive wisdom, creating a more complete understanding of complex situations. This isn't about abandoning logic. It's about recognizing that intuition provides valuable information that logic alone might miss. The sixth application principle is emotional validation mastery. You learn to provide emotional resonance and validation before jumping to problem-solving mode. This means listening for the emotional content of what she's sharing, reflecting back what you're hearing, and demonstrating that you understand how she's feeling before offering solutions or advice. This skill alone will transform your relationships because it addresses one of the deepest psychological needs in feminine psychology: the need to feel emotionally understood and validated. Most men skip this step because they're eager to help solve problems, but Jung understood that emotional validation is often more important than practical solutions. The seventh application principle is cyclical awareness. You learn to recognize and flow with the natural rhythms of feminine psychology rather than expecting constant emotional availability. This means understanding that there are times when she'll be more emotionally open and available, and times when she needs more space for internal processing. Cyclical awareness doesn't mean accepting dramatic mood swings or emotional volatility. It means recognizing that healthy feminine psychology operates in natural waves and learning to be a stable presence that supports these rhythms rather than fighting against them. The eighth application principle is identity integration. You understand that her desire to integrate you into her social world and to build shared experiences isn't about control. It's about how feminine psychology constructs meaning and identity through relational connection. This means being willing to participate in the relationship-building activities that matter to her, meeting her friends and family, creating shared traditions and experiences, and understanding that these activities aren't just social obligations. They're how she creates emotional security and relational meaning. The ninth application principle is growth inspiration. You maintain your own path of development and inspire her growth through your example, rather than through pressure. or criticism. This means being someone who's genuinely committed to becoming better, who has goals and ambitions that extend beyond the relationship, and who naturally calls forth her highest potential through your own dedication to excellence. Jung taught that this inspiration happens naturally when you're genuinely committed to your own growth. You don't need to push her to change or improve. When you're consistently working on becoming the best version of yourself, you naturally inspire others to do the same. The key insight is that all of these principles work together to create what Jung called psychological complementarity, where masculine and feminine psychology naturally support and enhance each other rather than competing or conflicting. When you understand and apply these 9 patterns with respect and wisdom, you're not manipulating or exploiting. You're creating the conditions where healthy feminine psychology can flourish, which naturally creates deeper attraction, stronger connection, and more satisfying relationships for both partners. Jung's ultimate insight was that understanding these patterns isn't about gaining control over women. It's about creating harmonious relationships where both masculine and feminine psychology can express their highest potential. When you truly understand how feminine psychology operates, you naturally become more attractive because you're meeting genuine psychological needs rather than trying to create artificial attraction. The most important thing to remember is that these patterns aren't universal rules that apply to every woman in every situation. They're psychological tendencies that Jung observed across his decades of clinical practice. Every individual is unique, and the healthiest approach is to use these insights as a starting point for deeper understanding rather than as rigid formulas to follow. Real mastery comes when you can recognize these patterns while remaining genuinely present and responsive to the unique individual you're with. Jung emphasized that the goal isn't to become someone who manipulates these patterns for personal gain, but to become someone who understands and honors them as part of creating authentic, meaningful relationships. The paradox Jung discovered is that when you stop trying to control outcomes and instead focus on understanding and responding to genuine psychological needs, you naturally become more attractive and create deeper connections. This happens because you're operating from a place of genuine understanding rather than surface-level techniques. These 9 patterns, emotional validation seeking, security seeking behavior, idealization and projection, emotional cyclical nature, relational identity formation, emotional contagion and empathy, intuitive processing, aesthetic sensitivity, and the need for psychological challenge and growth work together to create a comprehensive understanding of feminine psychology that can transform your relationships. But remember, understanding these patterns is just the beginning. Real transformation happens when you integrate this understanding into your own personal growth journey, becoming the kind of man who naturally embodies the qualities that create healthy, attractive, masculine energy. Jung believed that the ultimate goal of understanding psychological differences wasn't to gain advantage over others, but to create relationships where both people could become more fully themselves while building something beautiful together. If this deep dive into Carl Jung's insights about feminine psychology has opened your eyes to new possibilities in your relationships, then you're ready for the next level. Click the link in the description to discover 9 weaknesses of women that you can exploit, according to Carl Jung, where we go even deeper into practical applications of these psychological insights. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest content on psychology, relationships, and personal development. Your transformation starts now.